Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my Resident Evil 4 Remake perspective that I played on the Xbox Series X. So, I had heard good things about this, and I was looking forward to it. Resident Evil 4 was the first Resident Evil game I played. I played it on the GameCube, I rented it from Hollywood Video, and then years later when I got into the series, I then repurchased it again as I did my Resident Evil perspective. And I've heard good things about this, but unfortunately, after playing through and completing this, I did not like this. Now, I don't think it's the worst thing ever, but it follows into the remake kind of traps of what to change and what not to change. And the biggest kind of barrier and obstacle that I had when playing this game was the actual kind of gameplay mechanics that they had for it. With the knife now having a durability kind of mechanic, other kind of RNG kind of mechanics put in as well, mainly in regards to ammo drops and money, and the shooting range with a gotcha kind of system with coins, and the kind of shooting mechanics really didn't work for me. And those were the big kind of things that really kind of stymied me in what was kind of going on with this game. It's really kind of interesting to do these kind of perspectives and reviews because going through these things, I learned that even if you have a horrendous story but fun gameplay, I will probably be alright with it. I won't be happy, but I'll at least not be bashing my head through a wall trying to interact with the game. Whereas with this, there are certain problems with the story, true, but the biggest kind of obstacles that I had were actively trying to do shit in the game. Trying to figure out how Leon moves and how to get away from things, because in the first couple of bits that I was going through with this, I was getting grabbed by things, and I'm like, why the fuck, like, you have to figure out the timing of how to run away from most of the kind of ganados and everything that goes on in here. Never mind the fact that I picked the difficulty that said if you've played Resident Evil 4 before, you should play on this difficulty, and I don't recommend that. If you're playing something like this, look into the research, and since it's a remake, depending upon how the remake is done, if it has different kind of systems and mechanics in it, like this one does, and you have to get used to them, definitely play at the kind of difficulty that you want to figure out those things at. If it's a harder difficulty, cool, go for that. If it's not, and you want to figure out baseline of how the fuck shit works, definitely go for like the middle of the road, or maybe even do a test playthrough of on easy and see how it kind of works and how the mechanics feel for it, because that, with the hardness of what was kind of going on, of just, I should have been able to dodge this kind of thing, I did not have a fun time with this game. Now, I also had other kind of problems as well with what was going on with the story and how it was kind of done. It didn't really kind of understand the kind of strange action kind of things that would be going on in the original one, i.e. those action one-liners of like hasta luego, of how Leon is shooting the kind of barrel for like the chief dude. But in this one, it just doesn't come off for me with the delivery of the voice actor. I don't know if it's direction, whatnot, it just doesn't hit the same. There's a lot of, and then there's certain kind of instances where he does an action line, but it's not one of the big kind of ones, and he's still able to like nail it. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's just really kind of weird of how it doesn't understand these kind of things. And it just felt really longer compared to what kind of goes on with the other Resident Evil 4. It just drugged for me on certain kind of aspects, which didn't really happen to me in the original. Yeah, it was just trying to figure out how the system worked and what I needed to do to get through for the next kind of things. I'd get stuck on certain things because I'm like, I should not be dying to this kind of thing, or I should be able to hit with this kind of aiming scheme, but you have to then learn how much the reticle can lock on, how your recoil works out. It doesn't feel very nice for me on the shooting aspect of it. I've played other kind of games that have done the kind of shooting aspect better. And that's the thing. That's your main kind of way to interact and fight in this world. And if the shooting mechanics don't feel good and you're just kind of fighting it, you're not going to have a good time. Granted, that's my experience. Other people could be like, hey, this is great and everything, and that's cool. I'm totally down with that. That's fucking awesome. I'll hit mainly the gameplay stuff first, and then go into kind of the story, how it's a little bit changed up, how I think that some of the changes worked, some of the changes didn't work. Yeah. So with the gameplay, you really get into the kind of issues of the knife, because I understand that the knife in the original one was OP. You could go through and fucking go through it on that. But in order to get an unbreakable knife, you have to beat the game first. Then you have to get this thing and upgrade the shit out of it. And it feels more like it feels worse because it more feels like a resource sink more than trying to find a fix for an unbreakable knife. Or a knife that doesn't degrade. There needed to be better kind of balancing mechanics with this, because I felt like the only way to make sure that I didn't get my ass handed to me was to utilize the knife system. And the thing is, if it got broke, you couldn't break out of certain kind of things unless you had other kind of breakable knives as well, which clogs up your inventory, which clogs up your item management, which makes that even kind of worse. It's kind of like a rolling kind of thing that one change starts hitting onto the other ones. And that's the thing. Yes, a little bit of resource management works, but the thing is, every time you then have to utilize your money to repair your knife and eventually repair armor, I really didn't notice much of it being a help, but I got the armor anyway. And then that means you might not have enough money to make sure that you get the expandable case to make sure that you can hold more shit in your case. It really is an interesting kind of look into how one certain kind of design change can then have rippling effects to other kind of mechanics within the game. Because even though I played through this and I've been sitting through it and I've beaten it, it's been about a week or so. And now I'm just coming down to this kind of effect right as I'm talking about this, that there's these knock-on effects of certain kind of things. Bam, bam, bam. I was like, oh shit. And the thing is, they were getting to certain kind of encounters that I didn't know if I'd be able to get through because I wouldn't either have enough ammo because of case or because of the RNG of what I'd be getting. Sometimes I would just be getting fucking money out of nobody's business and I wouldn't be able to buy ammo. I would buy crafting materials, potentially, that's limited quantities at the merchant, to be able to craft things, but that's if I'm given the crafting material to do it. And that's the kind of thing. I can take it if I can't beat an encounter through skill. That's fine. If I just get completely and utterly stuck or try and figure out a strategy or whatnot to work. But when I'm not able to get the resources that I need in a game, through kind of no fault on my own of I just have to keep reloading, that hopefully RNGesus will bless me with all the ammo or all of the crafting materials I need, that does not present a fun time for me. And that really showcases the differences in the kind of game design. Now granted, you had RNGesus popping up and telling you what kind of ammo and shit you'd be getting in the original one. Totally fair. I'm not saying that the original one blows this out of the water. There are problems with the original one as well in regards to that. But the RNG seems to be just fucking me over more in this. And then again, there's more kind of RNG as well. Because the shooting range, you don't go for a high score and get the prize. You get tokens that you put into a gacha machine that you then potentially get a prize that'll work out for you. Now, the thing is, this charm system, I either skipped shit or was not explained well enough for me, and it wasn't until towards the end I was like, oh, I can have 3 of these at once, because I thought I'd have to put on the merchant dude's thing to get percentage off of weapon upgrades, but I could wear 3 of them. I'm like, I don't care, because I didn't want to interact with the shooting gallery to try and farm gold coins to do this gacha thing to potentially get the thing that I want. I want to work towards the things that I want through things that are clearly defined on what's kind of going on. That just means this game really isn't for me with that kind of thing. There are instances where you can do that, but when you've got the RNG for it, it's like, okay, this isn't a fun time for me. That's why I distance myself from those kinds of games. That's why I like certain kind of RPGs where it's like, okay, here's the kind of grind. You can find your effective kind of grinding strategy, like in Dragon Quest XI, and getting yourself up and getting certain kind of things and understanding how to fight certain characters and get certain kind of items for crafting or whatnot, where you've got an ability to kind of better your odds and whatnot. Here, you kind of have different kind of systems that are at play that, like, you could get it or you might not get it. And it's just like, that sucks. And you just, for me, that's really turning me off on more kind of games as more kind of RNG mechanics are put in to just kind of stymie and lengthen out the process more than anything. But that's just how I like to play as a gamer and the kind of games that I like. Just because that's the kind of thing that's taken the kind of mainstream way for the industry, that doesn't mean it needs to be changed to my way. I'm happy to see all different kind of ones, but I just don't like the kind of RNG where it's like, I kind of want to work towards something and have goals and be able to achieve objectives on this kind of stuff, not fucking hoping that it's going to pop out for me. Alright, the knife's durability, shooting, RNG. Yeah. Those are the kind of main ones for the gameplay, because it did not feel good for me of trying to run away from certain kind of things, having to pretty much, I have to see them first and hope to God they haven't seen me so I can run away from them. Because there are certain grabs and everything I'm like, I should have been able to run away from this, but I don't know why I'm not, because Leon moves really kind of weird, and I did not find a dodge mechanic except for like the crouch, and honestly Leon should have had a dodge mechanic because he's a trained government operative at this point. Him being in the Raccoon Police Department and being a rookie, I can understand to a certain extent. But here he should have been able to like dodge certain kind of things or do some kind of move. It doesn't need to be crazy. I'm glad that we didn't have as many QTEs in this one, because holy fucking fuckballs, the QTEs decided to be like, hey, you get fucking 1 2 day, and then another, and another, and another. In the original, man, it was like, So, that was my biggest kind of thing. And since it's a gameplay thing and how you interact, that's where I was like, oh. Other than that, the graphics are great. Yeah, alright, cool, prettied up. That's fine. Then we also get into the story kind of changes. Now there are story changes. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Good ones, let's go out first. 3 main ones that I've got. 1, I like that they try and do a better kind of relationship between Leon and Ashley, where Ashley kind of at certain points gets overtaken by the Plagas, and she actually talks to Leon, and they kind of work it out because you hurt Leon because of being kind of controlled by that, but Leon's like, no, we're getting you out of this. Them having quiet moments and actually kind of conversing, and Leon being like, you've helped me out. Her helping him get the Plaga out towards the end of the game, and him like, yeah, you don't need me. You'd be fine on your own for what she's been able to do. And having a section to play as Ashley worked very well, actually. It didn't feel... You have to find that balance between a different kind of gameplay and her being the kind of damsel in distress kind of thing. She was actually able to do certain kind of things, not like completely fight on the level of like Leon or Ada or Luis, but her having her own gameplay sections actually as a kind of shakeup worked pretty well, and I kind of liked it. It didn't feel like the Mary Jane sections in the Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man remastered that I played through. This actually I really kind of liked. I was like, oh, okay, and it didn't overstay its welcome. Ashley has a little bit more going on in this. Not a lot, but it's good to kind of see them with their interaction. Luis was definitely interesting, of like him and getting more kind of backstory with him and seeing him try to help and have his own kind of flair worked pretty well as he's trying to help them out, and Leon trying to dig in why he's helping them, his connections to like Umbrella and everything like that, and that was nice. Ada was really kind of good at the end because we see her get the Plaga from the Plaga sample, and then Wesker's like, I'm going to use it to pretty much destroy the world. She's like, fuck this shit. Where she then takes control of the helicopter and be like, we're not giving this to them. Go off on this way. I definitely understand not liking the voice acting, because if you've played the original and you've played this series up into this point, changing that stuff up is always going to be nutty, and it depends upon your preferences. I don't. I deal with it more along the lines of content and direction, and because there were certain kind of issues with like pretty much everyone involved. Though granted, when we got to Ada, like as I got more used to her, I'm more like, okay, it's mainly how they're kind of directing her, because there's certain kind of instances, like towards the end mainly, where she has kind of at least more flair on what's kind of going on for her, especially when she's kind of talking to Wesker and seeing her kind of understand what he's kind of doing and being like, yeah, change of plans kind of thing. Leon was the inconsistency of not being able to deliver the action lines to what I thought would be kind of action lines that are able to deliver the cheese while still being good is a very hard thing to do. Okay, like the original, you shouldn't have been able to get away with it. Okay, but it was just really kind of strange with Leon. Those were the big kind of instances. Otherwise, I was pretty much fine with him. Ashley was good. Their change in designs, art style wise, worked within the realms for me. Bigger kind of issues are changing up of different kind of levels, which works out well enough, but I'm talking like how long certain segments are, where you're kind of at, getting to the island and all that. Oh yeah, Sadler and Salazar are kind of weird. It's just I'm more used to their kind of art styles and their voices from the original. Not that they're bad or anything, I'm just like, what the fuck? But we start getting into issues of mainly theming and big kind of ways to actually tie this together. Because Capcom is trying to, I guess, make this a more kind of cohesive franchise. Never mind that they never really fucking gave a shit about it to begin with. But now they're trying to thread the Plaga thing throughout the whole kind of scenario, because we saw that kind of seed being done in the third one. So, two big issues that I've got pretty much at this point. Now, granted, I'm going to go with the one big issue, but tie it into something that I kind of like them being able to kind of go with that kind of tempers it, but not really. One is that we got somehow an even worse kind of start off, because we don't even really get the understanding that Umbrella has like gone away and has been destroyed, mainly because of like stock prices and shit like that. We at least got that in the original. We don't get anything like that in here, and you just kind of have to fucking figure it out as it goes along. That's not good. Umbrella and its fallout and everything should be a big thing. They were the big antagonists for 1 through 3, and them falling and failing and then spreading bioweapons around the world through people doing the kind of arms race and trying to copy them and trying to get the next big shiny penis-y looking fucking bioweapon. That's kind of part and parcel of what's going on. But no, we even get that kind of only just pushed into the background. We mainly get the whole spiel of the Plaga and Sadler and this religious kind of order more pushed to the forefront. I think that is a wrong move on Capcom's part to do this way. It really fucks with the theming and everything of what kind of goes on. And that's the big kind of thing. Capcom is very inconsistent with that kind of thing. They don't know what this franchise, or a lot of their franchises, what they kind of want to be and do with it. Because Umbrella deserved a better kind of destruction and understanding of what's kind of going on, because it's barely kind of threaded in. You gotta hunt for it and be like, you have to be a Resident Evil fan to understand it. And the thing is, Resident Evil 4 was always that kind of shift that went a little bit nuttier doodah and tried to kind of reinvigorate, kind of like 7, and Village. Even though we've still got stuff in the background, there's better ways to kind of do it. 2, we go on a more kind of cosmic body horror kind of route with religious kind of undertone. Well, not undertones, they're fucking in your face. With the religious overtones and everything kind of going on with it. What I mean by this is, instead, like, it goes down to a kind of central kind of theme. What is the theme of Resident Evil? Right? And I don't even think Capcom knows. But, however, when I was looking through and doing my kind of perspectives on at least the first 3, it's more that Umbrella engineered this shit, and it's like man's folly making something and going, holy fucking shit, this kind of went nuts. Granted, you can tie that a little bit in here, but this is like, oh, there's this crazy-ass kind of parasite kind of thing, let's fucking fuck around with it. It's more like this unknowable thing. It's similar, but it's a very different kind of thing of man's hubris versus I found something in a cave and I'm going to stick my dick in it or let it stick its dick in me kind of shit. There's a difference there. There's a difference of you exploring man's hubris, man's pride, and trying to create and control the natural kind of world versus I found this weird kind of thing that might be useful and you kind of attempt to control it. It takes that kind of extra step out of like, man, taking this thing, trying to mold it and make it. Even though there are elements in there, it's more, oh, it's right here. It's in the ground. And we find it and we fuck with it. And it doesn't have the same kind of effect, at least for me. Now, I can understand people being like, no, that's pretty much the same kind of thing. I find a difference to it. And if that doesn't bother you, that's quite alright. If it still follows the themes and you like that, that's great. I'm happy for you on that. This, it took that kind of step out of man did this stupid kind of thing, whereas we had this thing in here that could just like wipe us out at any kind of point, and we're not involved with making that kind of thing. We can kind of tweak it and augment it, and that still goes in the hubris and the pride kind of aspect, but it's a different kind of way of how it works out. Then we get the religious kind of overtones of the one body, the hive mind and everything, which I would have liked to have explored kind of more. Sadler's trying to make a more kind of utopia. I do kind of like that aspect added in because Sadler's just like, yeah, I'm going to take over the world with a fucking parasite kind of thing. Okay. Alright. But I do like them kind of delving a little bit more with that and kind of changing up his aspects with that and kind of exploring that more with the cult order, seeding out more of the whole kind of stuff with Sadler. I just wish it wasn't connected to a change in the themes and of course the tonal whiplashes and everything kind of going on here. They're kind of more apparent to me when I'm playing through, and that it's not as evenly combined and executed throughout the game, whereas I felt that the 4th one did that a little bit better, where you've got more of the action stuff going on. You get some kind of horror, but I could definitely understand people being like, that's more of an action game in the turn-to-action franchise, more than horror, where it still has kind of jump scares and everything more than anything, but you're like, yeah, I can beat this shit. Hasta luego, motherfucker. And all that kind of shit. Oh, and Sadler's boss fight, oh my god, that was such a nutty fucking encounter. Coming back to a little bit of gameplay critique, I had to go through like all my health items and pretty much all my ammo, and I'm like, that's not good. Man, I was disappointed, but we'll also get to what kind of goes on, because I don't mind remakes and remasters, but you always have to watch out what's going to kind of happen with them, because with this, I didn't need it to play exactly the same. I'm alright with certain kind of changes, certain kind of fleshing outs, especially kind of stuff what happened in here. But, like what happened with GTA, is it going to become to the point where they take away the other ones, and this is all we've got? Now, granted, I'm also doing another video where I'm going to kind of expand upon that point a little bit more. But, I don't know. I can't really give a solid recommend or not recommend on this, because it all gets down to your preferences of everything going on. If I can see people who liked the original Resident Evil 4 would like this one. I can see people who hated the original Resident Evil 4 would like this one. And vice versa and everything in between. It's just, I did not like this one because of the gameplay elements that stopped me from interacting how I wanted to kind of, like took away enjoyment for me for interacting. And that's the whole kind of thing. You could have a really great story, but if I'm not invested in the gameplay, and that's the main way for me to interact with the game, I'm not going to like it. And then conversely, if the story isn't really that good, which I've had some, but I have fun with the gameplay, I can at least tolerate it and get through it because that's the main interaction. I think I've hit on most of what I wanted to on this one. It's hard for me, perspective-wise, to recommend it or not. I did not have a good time with this. But there's a lot of people that could have good times with this who probably don't see it the way I see it, which is fine. I want people to get these games and to have good times with them. Granted, I didn't have a good time with this one. It happens. I can take that. Yeah. It was a definite weird one, and I'm glad I played it to understand what I like about gameplay, what I like about changing in story and everything kind of going on, and what goes on, and what I would like in remakes and remasters. Now granted, we're getting to the point where we're doing a lot of these fuckers, and I kind of want some new shit too. New franchises, new things, new kind of experiments and everything. Ugh. So, those are my opinions on the game. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.